time.
Turn it. It's every time. It's every time.
Yeah.
I'm consistent with the mission every time. Drip up on my wrist and neck, you know I shine. No capping when I'm rapping, you can check it line for line. Every time. It's every time. I'm consistent with the mission every time.
Yeah.
Drip up on my wrist and neck, you know I shine. No capping when I'm rapping, you can check it line for line. I do this every time.
Cut that off, DJ. What's happening, y'all? My name is Kyren Monteiro, man. Welcome to Board Talk, episode number 4. I'm really excited about this episode. It's been some weeks since we gave y'all a new episode, and we definitely want to make sure that we gave y'all a new episode, man. This episode is presented by Frequency Canvas, and I'm very ecstatic about this episode because this is a good friend of mine, audio mentor, big brother, who's going to be featured on this episode. My guy, IsRael Musiq from Washington, D.C., legendary hip-hop, Christian hip-hop producer and audio engineer, Dove Award-winning, Stellar Award-winning engineer and producer. So a lot of gems is going to be dropped on this episode, and we're going to call this episode The Art of Mixing. And there's no script on this episode. There's no outline. The relationship is so long that me and this guy, all we got to do is just talk, and it's just going to be some dope conversation. So what we're going to do, we're going to call IsRael now and get him on the line, and then we're going to start getting into what we're doing. So let's get him on the phone right now.
What up?
IsRael Musiq, what's going on, man? You live on the Board Talk episode, man. What's good with it?
Man, everything is everything. Christ is life, man. Life is beautiful. I can't complain out here, man. How's everything on your end?
Man, dog, man, as you know, because you lived out here for 10 years, it's Indiana, my guy. So it's been cold the last few days, and then these next few days it's going to be sunny, and then it's back to, that Thanksgiving type weather, man. So it's interesting here right now, man.
Yeah, I was checking the weather out there just to see what it was on my phone. That joint said y'all was like in the 40s. I was like, oh nah, man. But yeah, dug it out.
Hey man, you in the East Coast, it ain't like you in Miami, dog. So you ain't got that much room to be judgmental on weather, my guy.
You got that right for sure.
Hey, them East Coast winters. What's worse, Midwest or the East Coast? What would you say?
Oh, definitely Midwest by far.
What?
By far, bro. Like y'all winters is longer, and the coldest are cold. Like the coldest we get out here in DC is like we may have like one day where it's like 20 degrees, or maybe 2 days out there. Like the first time I came out there, it was like -10, -20 out that joint. Like, and be like that for weeks. Like y'all winters start in like October and don't end until April. Like I remember when I was out there the last year, it snowed on like April the 4th or something like that. It was bro. Yeah, Midwest is definitely you gotta be a true trooper out that joint. Nah, I'm good on that.
I've been in this joint 32 years, dog. So I really don't have no room to talk, man, because I done been out here, bro. But man, I wanna dive right in, bro. You are a legendary producer and engineer within the Christian hip hop realm, and just music in general. You also became a legendary sales rep sales engineer at SweetWater when you worked there, and man, you just full of knowledge, bro. And one episode is not enough to unpack like the mindset in the universe that we call IsRael Musiq. But I definitely wanna however long we're gonna be on this episode, I wanna, get some of that and unpack some of these gems. But first, for people who may not know you, I wanna get into, how you got to where you're at and some of the experiences. So you grew up, born and raised in Washington, D.C., and just kind of like tell us your story, man. Like how you grew up, how you got into music, how you accomplished some of the things within Christian hip hop, how you got to SweetWater, and then we can just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, so definitely born and raised in Southeast DC, to be specific. Like anybody that's from the city, you got be specific on what part you from, because it's way different. Like I'm from Southeast, which is, considered one of the worst parts, if not the worst, especially in the 90s when I was growing up. It definitely was the worst. Like, when you got the White House and you got the Capitol building, like that's Northwest. So that's a completely different side than Southeast or even Northeast. So I grew up in the 90s, man. I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 87. So, youngers be talking about Chicago right now, but like DC in the 90s was no joke. Like that's the reason why they even created like the war on drugs. Because you gotta remember, DC is not the South and it's not the North. So in the 90s, youngers was coming from New York with the drugs coming to DC. They was coming from Virginia coming to DC. They was coming from North Carolina, South Carolina. Like everybody was trafficking in DC. I mean, so much so when I was growing up, I know everybody know about Marion Barron, Mary Berry, you know what I mean, so to speak. I mean, he was addicted to crack himself, and they voted him back in. They voted him back in after he got caught and locked up for it. So that just shows you how, like, the mind state of the city was, man. Like, so when I grew up, 5, 6, 7 years old, youngins was already telling me, like, look, man, if you take this package here, we gonna give you $100. Like, I didn't know what it was then because I was only 7 years old, but they was trying to get me to sell drugs. That's just like how it is, man. Like that's how you get into the game very young and very early. So, I mean, but I grew up in, a single mother household, like 90% of everybody in the country, black men. So it was real hard. I'm the first of seven kids. I got 3 little brothers, 3 little sisters. So we all in a 1-bedroom apartment. It was tough, man. So, how I really cope with the violence that was in my city was really playing video games, man. I'm a nerd for real. I'm a gamer, man. Like since the Super Mario Bros, man. So I was just going in the arcades, and the drug dealers would be betting on me, like because I had one quarter. I'd be playing like Street Fighter 2, and I'd be on that joint for hours off the one quarter. So the drug dealers would come over here. I bet you can't beat Irk. That's my government name. I bet you can't beat Lil Irk in this game. So they'll step up, play the game, I'll whoop them, and then be the next dude, and my mother come over there. It's time for you to come in the house. So then when I go in the house, I'll be playing more video games so I can get better. So long story short, man, in 1999, so what was that? Yeah, I was 12 years old because I'm a gamer. One of my best friends at the time, we heard about this game called MTV Music Generator because we used to read the little gamer magazines, a joint called Game Pro for all the old heads out there, Game Pro and Game Informer. And they was like, it's going to be this video game where you can make music. And I was always a music head. Like, my first album I ever bought was Tupac, All Eyes on Me, at the same arcade that I used to go to. And I heard the California Love, and what that was, 95, so I must have been like 7. I heard that, and I asked my mother, I was like, Mom, can I get $5 so I can go buy this album? Man, that was not enough to buy an album in 1996. Like, albums cost $19.99. So I went over because I knew the arcade owner, and he sold tapes. Went over that joint, put my little $5 down. I'm like, I want the Tupac, All Eyes on Me. That man looked at me, was like, where's the rest of the money? You know what I mean? I was like, that's all I got. But he knew me because I was always in the arcade. He gave me this look like, go ahead, man, just take the tapes. Because it was 2 tapes, like, because, dual I was 2, a double disc album, but it was 2 tapes. So he gave me the tapes, went home, put that joint on, man. I was in love with music ever since. Like that All Eyes on Me really did something to me. So when I heard about the video game a few years later in 99, I was like, let me try this because I love music. Let me try it. So me and my man, 12 years old, we used to play a game. So it was on PlayStation 1, matter of fact. And we would, I make a beat. He'll go in the living room, watch TV, watch cartoons, and I make a beat. And then he would come in, listen to the drums like, oh, that joint tight, or that joint garbage. I can make something better. So then I would go in the living room, then he'll make a beat, and I come in, and I'm like, oh, that joint tight, but I bet you I can make something better. And we did that for a whole summer. Like, we ain't even go outside. It was just me and my man just making beats on this video game. And I mean, them joints was trash. I ain't gonna lie, because I still got some of them beats to this day, or like on tape that we made. And that's how I really got my start in the music. It was really for my love for video games, and then that just turned into my love for music. And then so 12 years old, me and him going back and forth. And then he kind of, like, as we began to turn to teenagers, like I would say 14, 15 years old, you know, that's when your hormones start to kick in. So my man started going to the parties and everything, and he would try to convince me, like, man, they going down, it's a party down the street you trying to go to, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, dog, like, I'm trying to make these beats. I was serious about it. Like, I'm like, this is life. This is what I really want to do with my life, dog. He trying to go chase girls, chase whatever he want to chase. I was chasing a dream, dog. So it's like by 14, 15 years old, I really was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I actually moved to West Virginia at 15, and I moved with my father. Me and him started reconnecting. But long story short, I ended up getting kicked out at 16 years old, kicked out of the house. I was living on my own, and me and another guy of mine, he had a studio. He had an MPC and a Korg Triton. So I was like, dog, this is perfect opportunity because I'm just using this video game. And I was already selling beats for like maybe $100, $200 or whatever. But I'm like, Dad, I've been reading about this equipment in the music magazines. And I'm like, he got real equipment. So I lived with him. Me and him was paying rent for like maybe 3 years. And I was just selling beats to local artists, going around the hood, passing out my little mixtape at the time because mixtapes was popping back then. So I would burn
beats.
Yeah, that was back. Mixtape game was heavy. So I would be in high school, like shopping my beats. Hey, you rap? Here's a beat. So I sell one for like $300-$400 a pop. That'd be enough for like some shoes, you know, little clothes or whatever. So yeah, that's when it really, really happened. But lo and behold, I ended up getting saved in West Virginia at 19. And then at that point, like, it was kind of weird because because I was just selling the drug dealers and real hustlers like that. They was paying me $500 a beat, and that's how I was paying my rent. And then it's like one day after Christ came into my life, I just had to stop all of it. They would come back the next day at the same house, like, yo, E, they called me E at the time, like, yo, E, you got them beats? And I was just like, nah, man, I can't do it. They was like, dog, what's wrong with you? You just sold me a beat yesterday. I'm like, man, like, I'm serving the Lord. I can't really promote what you rapping about and be a Christian at the same time. So I lost a lot of friends at that time, man. And it was real tough, but, you know, I thugged it out. So long story short on that, so at 19, I moved back to D.C. and doing the same thing. But when I moved back to D.C., that's when my CHH career started, because I was still, even though I was known in my own little hood, in my own little local area.
Tell the people what CHH mean. They might not know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Christian hip-hop. Yeah, so I wasn't really into Christian hip-hop. Like, I was selling beats to drug dealers, hustlers, and shooters. Like, that was all I knew. But I was been making beats at that point from 12 years old to 19. So I already had 7 years under my belt. So I was real experienced, but I was a baby Christian. So first of all, I didn't know any artists in CHH at the time. And two, like, I didn't even know who to reach out to. So I thought I really had to give up rap. But then my man Pablo, the one that led me to Christ, he was putting me on to like the old like Christian hip hop, man. Like, he was putting me on the cross movement at the time. He put me on, I want to say Grape Tree. That had like BBJ and all them dudes. I was listening to that. And I ain't going to lie. Like, when I first started listening to it, I was like, man, I don't know. Like, like this ain't tight, dog. Like, this ain't tight, man. Like, because I already knew I was already in rap in the hip hop culture before I became a Christian heavy. Like, I was already 19 by the time I became a Christian. So I wasn't really feeling it. But then he was showing me like the old cross movement stuff. He showed me Ambassador. He showed me The Truth. He showed me Flame. He showed me JR. You know, he go by Courtney Orlando now.
Yep.
But but Orlando, like, I was like, oh, this is fire. Like, that was the first time I actually thought, like, dad, like, Christian rap can actually be tight. And, so at the time, you know, he was discipling me at the time. And I just, like, really fell in love with Christian hip hop or Christian rap or whatever you want to call it. Especially, like, the album that really sold me on, like, what I want to go hard in is The Truth, the joint called The Faith. That was, like, the first album I fell in love with, like, in Christian rap. I'm like, yo, this is incredible. Mixing-wise, production-wise, like, everything was incredible. So I'm jumping through everything because it's a long story. But yeah, so I was working on beats. And my man EXO, I met him on SoundClick. Forget SoundCloud. That's back in the day on SoundClick, boy. Like,
it used to be mp3.com for
mp3.com. What you know about mp3.com? See, you know your stuff. I'm about to say it used to be mp3.com, but then they went to SoundClick. So I was just posting my beats on SoundClick at the time, just trying to, like, get my name out there. By the way, I forgot. So yeah, I went by Earth. But when I came to Christ, long story short, a bit of my testimony, like, I was real frustrated at God because the dude that led me to Christ, he was like, man, I had this dream last night and I was walking with God and I was doing all this stuff. And, man, I was getting angry, dog. Like, I was getting angry in my heart, man, because I'm like, why God don't talk to me? You ain't no better than me. And so, like, I went outside. I literally screamed it was nighttime. It was maybe like 1:00 in the morning. I'm literally screaming to the top of my lungs, like, God, if you real, you talking to Pablo, but you ain't talking to me. Like, don't ever talk to me ever. Basically, I gave God an ultimatum. Like, if you don't talk to me right now, forever hold your peace type stuff. And then, like, I went back in the house. I ain't hear nothing. So I'm like, all right, it is what it is. But Pablo had left the Bible at my desk. So I was like, I ain't had nothing else to do. I wasn't sleepy. Open up the Bible, man. And that joint, like, I still can't find some of the pages to this day, like, where I was reading that, man. But it really revealed a lot to me in regards to my family. And all of that stuff came to pass, too. So I went upstairs and cried out to God. Felt the Holy Spirit come upon me, man. I gave my life to Christ right then on the spot, just in a room by myself. And he changed my name to Israel. So that's why I go by Israel now, not Earth or whatever else, you know, I used to go by. And at the time, I'm like, I was just gonna go by Israel, just period. Like, that was gonna be my name. But I was like, that's kind of whack, like, just going by Israel. So I was like, what can I add that spice it up? So I was like, music, like, I do music. And I was like, oh, that's a tight punchline, like, it's IsRael Musiq. Oh, that makes sense. And that's why I, you know, people that may know me from way back in the day, my tagline used to be like, it's pronounced IsRael Musiq because of IsRael Musiq. So but yeah, so my name is Israel now. I go by that in real life and as a stage name. But fast forward to my man EXO. He found me on SoundClick. I was going by IsRael Musiq at the time. And we just started building. We started building back and forth, man. He's a real good friend of mine still to this day. Love him as a brother, man. He's been an instrumental part of my life. And turns out we was talking on AOL Instant Messenger, the little AIM joint. And he was like, I know this dude from Cross Movement. I'm like, oh, word? He's like, yeah, his name Macadulos. So I'm like, okay. I had like 20 beats at the time. I was like, I got some stuff I can send him now. So he connected me and him. Macadulos hit me up on Instant Messages, just like EXO said. And from there, that's when I got my first Christian rap placement. It was on Everyday Process, Out of This World. I did like 4 records on that album. And then from there, it really just kind of snowballed. Like, I did the stuff for R. Swift. And R. Swift, from there, I did J. Sun, the City Lights album. I did like maybe 8 tracks on there. And then obviously J. Sun was on Lamp Mode. So I went out to Lamp Mode, did an internship, did some tracks for Stephen the Levite, did some mixing for Stephen the Levite, Shaolin. and it just kind of escalated from there, man. And here we are, like here we are now. I can go on and on for the rest of the story, but that really is how it started, man. Like it started from video games, and then having good relationships with good people, and they put you on the good people, and then from there it just kind of snowballs.
All right, man. Look, round of applause for that story, man. I didn't get a chance to hit that at the beginning, so I had to throw that in there, man, because you know the origins how people come up is very informative and educational for the listeners, for sure, man. So that's definitely dope. And when he's talking about like City Lights and he's talking about the Everyday Process, these are Jason, these are legendary Christian hip hop artists. And he's talking to Lamp Mode Recordings, which was a legendary Christian hip hop label out of Philadelphia. This is the time frame of like 2008, 2009, 2010, around this time period when all of this stuff, which some people would call the golden era of Christian hip hop, the 2003, 2004 up to about, some people say 2012, 2014 was like about a decade of just, dominant golden era of the Christian hip hop, aka CHH market. So definitely, and from you being in the CHH market, that's brought you, Dove Awards, that's brought you Stellar Awards. Is you charted on Billboard, you've millions and millions of streams, thousands of records sold physically, thousands and thousands of records. So I mean, it's done amazing things for you, man. So once again, round of applause on that for sure, man. So I want to dive into the story just a little bit, not too much more time. Then I want to get into the art and mixing, man. What this episode is focused on. So you went through some things. We don't have to get into those things. You went through some things, and that brought you here to the state that I live in, which is Indiana. And you worked at SweetWater for like a decade. Can you talk about transitioning from being a full-time music producer and audio engineer to then going to actually selling the equipment you was using in the studio?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that, because I kind of skipped over that part, but that's another very important part of my life. So so basically I was doing like I told you, I moved back to DC. I was single, and I ended up getting married, and then I was still doing my thing. I was actually living out in VA, me and my wife at the time. And then I had my daughter, my oldest daughter, Justice. Actually, she just celebrated her 11th birthday yesterday. So that just goes to show you how long ago that was. But yeah, man. So we had a daughter, but that's the thing about, it's glorified in the music industry. Like, yeah, I'm doing music full time, because I ain't had no job. I was doing music full time for years, like 5 or 6 years or whatever. But the thing about it is, like, the way it works is you don't get paid until the album releases, which is cool when you single. It's kind of cool when it's just you and your wife, because y'all adults, y'all can figure something out. You know what I mean? But once I had my daughter, it was just like, labels wasn't paying on time, if at all. And then, you would get to run around with different artists, and it's like, hey, I want to buy this beat. And then you don't hear back from them. So I'm like, man, I'm not going to have my daughter going through this. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do this. So I was applying for jobs everywhere. I applied for a Guitar Center. I was just trying to get something that's consistent. You know what I mean? Because, bro, you're an engineer. Like, 1 month you may make five racks. And the next month you may not make nothing. Then the next week you may, you know what I mean? It's like, it's good money, but it's not consistent enough. And I'm like, I can't have this for my daughter or my kids at the time. So I applied for SweetWater. I ain't know how much they was going to pay. I ain't know where it was. I ain't know nothing of that. But I'm like, anything's going to be better than having my daughter starve one day and then feast the next. So I applied for SweetWater. This was back in when did I start? My daughter was born in 2011. So yeah, 2011. Yeah, 2011. So I applied for them. They flew us out there, did the interview, and then they hired me on. I was in college at the time too. I only had a semester left, And they actually told me straight out there, it was like, hey, IsRael, you already got the job, but, we think you should finish college since you only have a semester left for a bachelor's degree. In my mind, I'm from the hood. So in my mind, I'm like, the only reason why I'm getting this bachelor's degree is so I can get a job. And you offer me a job without the bachelor's degree, I'm going to just take it. So it was like, okay, cool, it's your decision. So I packed up all my bags. I sold all of my equipment, my music equipment, so I could move out to Indiana. And yeah, man, I started working as a sales engineer and really just pouring my passion of music into helping people pick the right equipment, man. Because I'm really passionate about equipment. Even when, like I said, since I was 14, 15, 16 years old, I knew what an MPC was, not because I ever used one, but I was always reading up on like the latest equipment and all that other stuff. So yeah, man. So from there, we'll just fast forward, over the past 10 years that I did work at SweetWater, man, I was able to build literally thousands of home studios, probably hundreds of professional studios. And I got to learn a lot, man. I got to learn a lot, not even just about like studio work or mixing work, but live sound, guitars, bass. I learned the difference between a Stratocaster and a Telecaster, a 5-string bass versus a 4-string bass. I learned the difference between different tone woods and drums and how, oak sounds different than, birch. I learned all of these different things that I didn't really have in my repertoire. So yeah, man, I had the chance to, and the same thing that happened in my music career happened in my sales career, because like once you do one thing for one person, it begins to snowball, and those people begin by word of mouth telling other people. So yeah, man, I built studios for Lecrae, Beats by Dre, David Crowder built his home studio, man, and a lot of that came from my man, rest in peace, legendary, favorite producer all the time, DJ Official. Before he passed, me and him was real close, man. We used to game, again, going back to the gaming. Right before he passed, man, literally like a week before he passed, me and him was staying up to 2:00 in the morning playing Call of Duty, just joking, man. But he knew this guy named Biz, and he was like, yo, Biz, I want you to meet IsRael. So me and Biz got real close, and I started selling equipment to Biz and building up Reach's stuff, and then that led to KB. That led to Trip Lee. Like I did Trip Lee's, his church. I can't remember the name of it off the top, but sold them equipment. And yeah, man, just people all over the world. So at that time, man, I think the dopest thing was that I was able to actually listen to the gear and compare it, because that's the difference. Like a lot of engineers, mixing engineers or even musicians, like you know what you like because you own it, but you don't really know the difference between a $300 speaker, a $500 speaker, a $10,000 speaker, and a $100,000 speaker. Like you haven't really heard those for yourself side by side in the same room. And I was able to do things like that on a daily basis. I would take equipment home. I mean, you remember, bro, when I bought the SSL home, like that was the dopest thing about the gig, because it's like, oh man, I never used the SSL console before. You know what? I'm about to just take it home and use it for myself, see what it sounds like compared to other things that I've already known, and really just form my own, not my own opinion, but really true fact. Well, as much fact as I could, you know what I mean? Because everything is subjective, but I really began to learn the differences between a tube microphone and a solid state microphone, a solid state pre versus, a pre, or op amp pre. I began to learn those things for myself. So yeah, it was a real great experience, man. The people was great. The company is great. But yeah, man, it was a great time period.
Yeah, man. I mean, even for myself, like I pretty much know everything that a sales rep knows who works at SweetWater, because of all of the knowledge that you poured in. You poured all of that stuff into me, and really taught me the art of mixing and recording. Not so much mastering, but still gave gems on mastering, because as an engineer you really focus on the mixing side of things. So I've been able to really get some gems of it, and that is what we're going to transition into now. There's so much more that we can talk about, but I appreciate you sharing all of them details, man. So the art of mixing, man. In one of the previous episodes, I did an episode on the 6 phases of music production. And obviously the first couple of phases you dealing with, pre-production stuff, songwriting and making the beat and, arranging the songs and recording it and all of that. But there's a point to where all of these things have to be mixed and all of these random pieces of a song, this puzzle has to be put together. They got to be shaped to paint a picture for the listener through the speakers. And so I'm gonna shut up and let the master himself talk about these things. So first off, what is mixing, right? What is the mixing process? Technically, by definition, and just what does a mixing engineer do, and what are those responsibilities for people who may not know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to put it in the simplest form is taking all of the elements that was done in the recording process, taking all those individual tracks and combining them into a 2-track is what we call it. Or, I would say that nowadays people would say, when you export it to an MP3. So if you have 24 recorded tracks, kick, snare, hi-hat, vocals, guitar, all of those signals have to be combined down to just a stereo track so you can listen to it on whatever playback device you got. That's a very simple terms. And that doesn't even have to involve EQ, compression, effects, or anything. It literally is just moving the faders up to where the levels sound right to your ear. And then from there, you print it. That's an old term, but export it in your DAW. And that's mixing. Mixing doesn't have to be a very complicated thing. It literally is just turning faders up and down so everything sounds balanced, and then you export it. That is mixing. It's the very basics of it. But just like any sport or any other thing, it's just like saying, what is basketball? Oh, basketball, what's the premise of it? You put the ball in the hoop. That's a very simple concept. Put this ball in that hoop. But it's a difference between me and LeBron James, right? There's a whole nother level to putting that ball in the hoop. So I can put a ball in the hoop and LeBron James can put a ball in the hoop. We can both do the simple task, but how do we do it? What's the process behind it? What's the preparation phase? How do you put your own sauce and your own swag on it? So that's where I really, dove deep into, because I didn't start off as a mixing engineer. Like I said, I started off as a producer. But once I started to really hear my tracks played back, and the artist would be like, hey, check this song out that me and you did. You did the beat, and I would listen to stuff, and I'm like, this joint sounds terrible. How did you make it worse than what I gave you? I didn't understand that. So I really was like, man, send the vocals over to me, send the tracks over to me, and I'll go ahead and do it myself. And that's really where I got, learn how to really mix. It was really out of a frustration that people was messing up my beats, because I would spend literally maybe 2 days making the beat and then another week mixing it. I would do 6 or 7 different mixes. I'm like, dang, man, why that kick ain't hitting right? So then I would go online, I would go on the forums. Gearspace was instrumental, and I'm like, oh, that's what 200 hertz means. You supposed to cut that? What's cut mean? So I really would just self-teach myself, and then try it on my own production, and then bounce it, go listen to it, and and I would just learn from there. So yeah, to answer your question, basically, you're taking all the individual tracks and you balancing them, and then you're going to export that into a song. But it's way more, it gets way deeper than that.
Absolutely, and we're gonna have to do another episode on to dive into those kind of things, because it gets way deeper, man. There are, man, there's so much we can talk about. But for people who want to mix, there are more and more people who are offering mixing services and trying to become mixing engineers. And honestly, it confuses me because it's like out of everything in the record production process, you chose to be the engineer. Unless you really, 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 really are made for it, I don't understand why people want to be audio engineers when you could try to be a producer, a songwriter, a manager, a label owner. Like there's so many other, videographers. Like there's so many other avenues within the entertainment industry and in the music industry that you can be. But everybody now, like being an audio engineer used to kind of be nerdy or looked down upon from the cool kids. Now it's kind of like audio engineers are being celebrated as the cool kid because most artists now look at their engineers as producers, right? A lot of people don't even know the differences between producers and engineers because independent artists aren't educated. There's not a lot of artist development by record labels and production teams like how it used to be. So you got kids and young people who are putting out records on TikTok or whatever, blowing up, and they have no idea of how the music industry works, how, record production works. They just kind of just doing whatever they feel off the vibes. But that is producing more and more mixing engineers than I've ever seen in my life. For an up-and-coming mixing engineer who can't afford all the gear from, to have a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 room, maybe they only got 1,000, maybe they only got 2,000. What advice would you give for people who are just starting out or for people who maybe been doing it a while and don't really have much, but they're trying to get to the level of a IsRael Musiq, to a Jason Joshua, to a Dave Pensado, some of these legendary engineers in the Christian hip hop world, to a Jacob Morris, aka Biz over at Reach Records, whoever it is that they're looking up to. Like, what would your advice be? You know what I mean? Yeah,
you don't need all that equipment, to make a great sounding record. I wouldn't even talk about hit records because I think that's the misconception. I think that is the downfall of the engineering side that we have in these days. Because most, like you said, the newer engineers, the younger guys who are like, oh yeah, I can mix too. But the downside of that is like they want to make hit records. They don't want to make great sounding records. And because of the whole trend of TikTok and social media, most people are listening to those songs on their phones, which you can't possibly tell a great mix from a bad mix on a 1-inch speaker. So you thinking, oh, this song has 1 million views, 3 million views, I can mix. You really can't mix. It's just that people can't really hear the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that being said, if somebody does want to get into audio engineering, first things first, and you got to have a great computer. Like before you even think about speakers, headphones, plugins, hardware, if that's what the route you want to go. Let's say if you had a $2,000 budget, I would spend $1,200 of that on the computer. Because at the end of the day, if your computer, I don't care if you got Waves, you can get all the plugins in the world, but if your computer crashes every time you load more than 6 plugins, it serves you no good. It's like buying a Lamborghini but can't afford the gas to drive it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
so.
A fact.
Go ahead and get yourself a very nice computer, something with. I'll be very practical. I ain't going to talk in hypotheticals. Something with at least 16 gigs of RAM, at least 16 gigs, at least I would say 4 cores, hard drive storage. That depends on you. How much records are you mixing? How many times you want to like upload it to the cloud? But spend the most money on the computer at first because that's going to allow you to run the plugins. Because any DAW you use, whether it's Pro Tools, Studio One, Cubase, Reaper, those plugins are honestly take it from somebody who's used $10,000 compressors and who has UAD and all of the plugins. You can be a great audio engineer with just the stock plugins. You can be a great audio engineer with just the stock plugins. So I would spend the $1,200 or whatever on the computer. Get yourself a DAW. If you want to do Pro Tools, your DAW of choice. They all pretty much do the same thing.
Studio One is the best. Go ahead.
Nah, Cubase is the best, but it's all good.
Studio One, I'm gonna let you keep that. Go ahead.
Whatever you want. Studio One is actually dope. Like, I'm not gonna discredit Studio One.
Version
So
6,
you get Studio One.
Version 6 just came out. It's amazing.
Yeah, I feel you. So Studio One, you get Studio One, cool. You know, now you up to let's just say your budget is up to let's say $1,500. Then, because if you only have that amount of, here's what I want engineers to know: the most important tool in an engineer's or mixing engineer's arsenal, I don't care if it's mixing or mastering, is your room. Period. I don't understand why, like, when I tell people that, they don't believe me. They want to get the nice speakers, they want to get nice audio interface, they want to get plugins. But if you can't properly hear what you're doing, then it doesn't matter. That's almost like if I was a painter and I got the nicest brushes with the nicest canvas, but I got sunshades on. Like, I got red sunshades on. That's obviously, how do I know what's really red? How do I know what's really blue? I don't know, because I have sunshades on, so your painting is not really going to come out the way you think it looks. It may look good to you, but when you take the sunshades off, you're going to be like, oh, that's not even right. And that's why a lot of engineers, like, it sound good in their room, but when you go to another room, it sounds horrible. So to negate all of that, if you can't afford acoustic treatment, get yourself a nice pair of headphones, man. I love the Audio-Technica M50s. Biodynamic, they make great headphones. I mean, you can go to your local store and test out headphones, see which ones you like the best. But that negates your room. So, boom, let's say you spend $200. Now you got $1,700. You got $300. I mean, you can get yourself a nice audio interface for $250, $200. It won't be the best. Obviously, that's your job to get work in order to pay for better gear. That's the crucial element that people don't understand. They want to spend all the money on gear first and think the clients will come. That's actually backwards. What you should be doing is get the equipment that's in your budget and then work with artists that are within your budget that maybe don't have higher standards as like a Grammy Award winning artist, and work with your local people. They will pay you if your work is, if you can produce fast work, a quick turnaround and sounds decent, work with that. Don't spend any of that money you make. Put that in a separate account. Then when you get enough money, then you can maybe go to a Universal Audio Apollo. You can upgrade your plugins. But that's what my advice would be. Get a computer, get a nice set of headphones so you don't have to worry about the acoustic treatment, and get yourself an audio interface. You good to go from there. You don't need any control surfaces. You don't need extra plugins. And as a matter of fact, man, like these days, I wish I was starting engineer, because a lot of companies have subscription programs. Back in the day when I first started mixing, I was 17, 18 years old. Man, Waves Gold cost $1,500. Like, we ain't had the money to do that, so we couldn't use it. But man, Waves got a subscription program for $29.99. You can have access to all their plugins. Plugin Alliance, I think it's $19.99. You can have access to all their plugins. Steven Slate, I think it's $20. You can have access. So for basically $100 a month, you can have access to all of the latest and greatest plugins for $100 a month. Now, I know some people thinking, man, $100 a month, that's a lot of money for plugins. Well, my answer to that is, if you can't make $100 a month in mixing and engineering to cover a subscription for your business, you shouldn't be engineering.
So check this. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna break this up into two parts. Hey y'all, look, this is the Board Talk episode number 4. I got my guy IsRael Musiq on here. We actually gonna cut this episode. This is part 1 of the Art of Mixing, and we gonna jump back, and y'all gonna have to go to the part 2. So IsRael dropping these gems so far, and we'll be back with part 2.